Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Well, even though I had other things planned for this morning, Mr. Forest Cobra was in his trap box, as well as Miss Taipan, who just shed an 8 yesterday, so I closed their doors. So now I will tidy up their cages while they're safe and secure, and I am relatively safe and secure from working with them. Again, during the epidemic or pandemic, it's just really not a good idea to show up at the ER with a very dangerous exotic snake bite. This Taipan is safely sequestered in her trap box. She ate yesterday, so now it's time to clean up her cage. And unfortunately, the vision cages, when they're stacked, they sort of compress the tracks, and I use what I call the jaws of life. It's actually a carpentry or such tool which allows me to expand and push up and allow me to remove the glass so I can get the trap box out. And clean up her cage. Now, she's inside there and probably somewhat not happy about it. She detects movement. The disadvantage of trap boxes is sometimes bits of substrate will impede the closing of the door. And of course we want the door closed and locked. So we have this little lock which, when it properly works, if it's not, it'll secure the door in a closed position. Well, this isn't working anymore. Well, that's unfortunate. So we will put the hook in regardless, and we will come up with a backup method just to make sure that the door stays closed where we want it until we want it opened. Latch, so it's a little bit more resistant to unintentionally open. And we'll pick her up, and what we'll do is we'll put her in the secure box because we don't take chances. Way. Even if she gets out of the trap box, the chances of her getting out of this box is quite low. Alright, so I'm going to pause the tape because it's relatively boring work making a mess of the floor here that we obviously vacuumed up, getting all the old substrate out and replacing it with fresh. So we'll see you in a bit. Well, I must apologize since my camera woman is unavailable at the moment to monitor the camera. Even though it showed 2 bars worth of juice left in the battery, the camera shut off when I wasn't looking. So just let me recap where we are in the process. I put Miss Taipan and her trap box back in her location. The water dish is in place and has water in it. I used the Jaws of Life and put the glass back in. I ensured that the glass slides relatively smoothly in case I need to slide it in a hurry. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the camera, lower it a little bit, and flip the latch and pull open the door and get out of Dodge very quickly. Okay, so here we are, ready to flip the latch on the trap box thusly, and we will slide the door back and we will leave. And this is how we work with the very dangerous snakes here. Although personally I've worked with her for years, she is a pretty relaxed Taipan under most circumstances unless food is present. You know, I've hooked and tailed her and kept her bottom half on the rug here while Lori did a few things inside the cage, or Dan did. She's relatively easygoing as far as the Taipan go. However, she has multiple lethal doses of very potent venom in her glands, and you wouldn't want to get that under your skin. So I don't think she's going to make an appearance, so we're just going to move on to our next customer who's locked away in his trap box, and that's Mr. Forest Cobra. Okay, fortunately the glass is wide enough on Mr. Forest Cobra's cage to move him completely out without having to remove the glass to clean his cage. So the first order of business is we'll take his dirty water dish out and put it there, and then we will pick up Mr. Forest Cobra and make sure that the little latch that's on there is latched, and it is. Make sure that it stays latched. I'll just temporarily insert this little pair of forceps in there. And this particular trap box design has a lid where we can see Mr. Forest Cobra all probably not very happy in his trap box. I don't want to tip him and make him feel uncomfortable, but there he is, all locked up. So now we will put Mr. Forest Cobra in the secure box while we service his cage, just to make sure that if for whatever circumstance he gets out of his trap box, he's at least contained in that box. So now I will, I probably won't do a total substrate change in his cage, but I will tidy it up and make him unhappy by doing so. Alright, I changed out half the substrate in Mr. Forest Cobra's cage. Got out all the debris and stuff. This half of the cage has fresh substrate. I sort of scooped out an area where his box was. I'll put him right back where he was and push the substrate around it before I actually open it. So I will put him back in there where he belongs. And then I'll just put the substrate sort of around. We don't want. I'm gonna undo the latch here. Use the locking mechanism. This way you can slide the door open and he can be free to move about his cage. He's sort of on lockdown. So let's move this over here so you can watch the action. So I think we're all set. So now right here is the locking mechanism for the trapdoor. Trapdoor is open and we can see Mr. Forest Cobra there. He's got fresh water. He ate yesterday, so now he will come out and explore and see what the hell happened when he was under lockdown. Unfortunately, Mr. Taipan here very seldom uses his trap box because his cage could use cleaning also. So he would require a bit of a different tactic, probably the big garbage can in order to contain him while his cage was clean. So that's it for now. Mr. Forest Cobra will eventually... Oh, there he is. He's making his appearance. He's going into a shed. Hi, dude. How you doing? Huh? I'm sorry. Huh? Yeah, no, there's no food. He's in perpetual shed. He sheds like every other week, even though I've cut back his food to trim him down a bit, but you know, he of course doesn't like that. But we'll let Mr. Forest Cobra, you know, come out and have a look around the room, his cage, so to speak, and we'll leave him alone. Well, it's the next morning after I cleaned the Forest Cobra's cage, and you can see Mr. Forest Cobra looking out. He's a bit milky now, going into shed. I did Miss Taipan's cage, and I just came into the room, and Mr. Taipan is in his lock box. So I am going to secure him in there and put him in the tub for added safety and security, and I'm going to clean his cage, which hasn't been done in a while since he very rarely ends up in his trap box where I can easily work with him. So right now I am slipping that forcip around the opening in the trap box. Clean this little bit of poo here. I have the lid taped closed because the the hinges broke, so we won't peek in on him, but we know he's in there, and that's the most important part. So now he's in there, and what I will do is I will secure this. And as usual, when there's a snake secured in a bin, we lay a hook over top of it, so Lori and I know that there's something in there that we need to be a bit cautious with before we open it. So I will stop everything as I usually do when I catch these guys in their trap box, and I will clean out and do a substrate exchange for the most part, because he hasn't been cleaned in quite some time and it's very dirty. So we'll be back. Okay, as we can see, Mr. Taipan's cage has been refurbed. The glass actually had to go down to the sink in the mud room, sort of a utility room. We call it the mud room because it, you know, you take your dirty muddy shoes off from outside, and it's where we have a spare sink to clean any of the snake related materials, as well as thawing their food and such. This way our kitchen sink is not contaminated with potential zoonotic things from snakes and from the rodents and chicks and stuff. So it's all kept quite separately from our normal kitchen activities. So he has a fresh water dish, complete change of substrate because it hadn't been done in a while because he's not necessarily cooperative. I'll put a little piece of tape denoting when it was changed. I don't spend a lot of time on cleaning cages like other people do, which do it weekly, which disturbs the animal and of course puts you at risk. Also the fact that, you know, the cost of a bag of forest floor from ZooMed has now climbed to over $20 a bag, and it took probably 7/8 of a bag to do his cage. It gets to be quite expensive. So all that's left to do is pull the pin on the hand grenade here and release him from his trap box. I really like this trap box design because very seldom do I have trouble with substrate getting in the way. So I'll release the latch at the bottom, slide the door open, and he can move freely about his little habitat there if he desires to do so. And I can move on with other things that I need to do about the room, tend to other critters. I try to keep any little bits of crud out, because I do like to have the door completely closed when I want it to, and not leave them any chance to get it out. It would be very unpleasant to come out and find Mr. Taipan or Miss Taipan or even Mr. Forest Cobra out and about in the room, so we take great care. These sticks are dual purpose. One, we live along a busy road and the windows rattle when traffic goes by, and it can be a bit annoying to me or Lori when we're in the rooms and hear them rattle. Also, snakes being escape artists, you know, snakes can, here's Mr. Taipan. He's like, what the hell happened? Snakes can figure it out and push against the glass and actually can open it. So it not only stops the snakes, the windows from rattling due to vibration in the house and building, but it also makes it very difficult to accidentally or on purposely move the glass unless we intend it to be moved. Hi, bud. I know I ruined the odor of your cage, so you're gonna have to poop it up just like Mr. Forest Cobra did. I can show you if you look very closely at the end of Mr. Forest Cobra's trap box right there. He pooped on the corner just to say, this is mine, you leave it alone, go away, Mr. Viperkeeper. So, with that said, Mr. Taipan can come out and do the same. You saw when I moved closer, he retracted. These snakes really don't want to interact with me as much as I'm not really interested in interacting with them for the most part. They're only interested in me when I bring food, and they're not very interested in the cleaning crew, and the cleaning crew has to come around and do their thing. They're less enthusiastic when I turn on the misting system during the dry season, or if it's dry and doesn't rain and the humidity drops in the room. They don't like getting their faces wet, so that's a bit of an annoying thing for them. But as you can see, Mr. Taipan has decided to come out and look around. Mr. Taipan and Miss Taipan were born in 2007, I think, and they've been here since they were hatchlings. Like many animals in my collection, and myself and Lori were aging, you know, and unfortunately sometimes we lose animals that are quite old and have been in the collection for a while. Bucky for one. Bucky's problem was that she got egg bound and couldn't spit out all those eggs. And if you remember from other videos of Ms. Taipan laying eggs, it really exhausted her, and that's why I no longer will breed this pair of Taipans. I will just keep them separately and let them live out their lives, although I know they would reproduce. However, there's really no place, nobody that A, wants an excess of Papuan Taipans. B, if you don't keep your own supply of anti-venom on hand, at least a couple of starter doses, you might not see yourself exiting the hospital in anything other than a body bag. These venoms are highly potent cocktails of a multitude of proteins and enzymes that attack multiple organ systems. Not only are there powerful pre- and postsynaptic neurotoxins, but there are myotoxins and there are hemorrhagens. So they attack multiple organ systems making it very difficult for a doctor to keep you alive. For instance, if you get bit by a monocle cobra or even a black mamba, chances are they can keep you alive on just a respirator alone because it's just basically a postsynaptic neurotoxin. Your body can rid, your immune system can rid your body of those toxins. It just takes time. Presynaptic neurotoxins, your body has to grow a new nerve. That binding of that venom protein to the synaptic bouton is permanent and final. On top of that, the myotoxins release myoglobin into your blood, clogging your kidneys, preventing them from filtering your blood, so you go into renal failure. On top of that, the hemorrhagens cause a consumptive coagulopathy, preventing you from coagulating and could lead to a significant bleed somewhere in your body. Generally speaking, most times it's in the brain, and that's generally completely fatal. Or if you actually do recover, you will never be the same. So unless you have antivenin for these, you're really working on the high wire without a net. So since he's out and about and we don't want to catch him defecating in his cage to make it his own again, we will stop the video at this point and move on to other activities in the lair.